Time to take you through the morning papers. With us now, theologian Vicky Beeching and radio DJ Pat Sharp. Welcome back to you both. Now we've all fully woken up, hopefully. Right, let's start with the first story. Vicky, you've got the Telegraph, page 5, and this is a story about who the next chairwoman of the BBC Trust, or chairperson, but probably a chairwoman, will be.
That's actually a very good point, and it's a nice thought. Well, we might actually have to rework that title. If selected, this leading British businesswoman, Rona Fairhead, would be the first ever female chairwoman, I guess, of the BBC Trust. She's the government's preferred candidate, so now she has to be interviewed by the Commons Media Committee. And I just think it's exciting to see women staking ground, really, in sort of, the first. I love it whenever it's the first. We're about to see the first ever women bishops in the Church of England next year. That will be very exciting. And I just think it would be so great if the BBC Trust had a chairwoman. So I'm really, really hoping it works.
Although a lot of people say that job is a poisoned chalice, don't they?
To some degree, I mean, and there is a lot of pressure on women who do those first roles, because if something goes wrong, everything kind of rests on them to prove what it's like to have a woman do it. We reviewed the story recently about the female Navy commander. Don't know if you remember that one. You know, the lady that was allegedly had an affair. Because she was the first person to command a Navy ship on the front line, when she sort of didn't do well at her job, everybody blamed her and her gender, so I just really hope that Rona Fairhead does get it, and also that she doesn't feel under too much pressure because of being the first woman.
All right, we'll have a look at the next story, and this is Asher King, the 5-year-old boy who has been found in Spain, here on the left-hand side of the mirror. And about this, really, I mean, the story gets more and more complicated, doesn't it, Pat? Because it now seems that the parents took him from the hospital in Southampton because they wanted to seek medical help abroad, but there has been this international arrest warrant out for the parents for taking him. The police kind of dampening down on their language today, or last night, when they gave a news conference. But it's a very painful story, especially when we see pictures of 5-year-old Asher with his parents in Spain.
Well, it is for anybody who has or doesn't even have children. I'm sure anybody can relate to it. The parents are now in a local police station. The older brother is looking after the siblings, and my thought on this, because you've been running the story anyway, so I think most people know about the story. My thought is, as a parent, would you do what this dad has done and take your child for the best to get this proton beam treatment, or would you listen to the doctors? It's a real tricky situation, because you feel doctors should know. However, you also feel like you've been reading on the internet, as he has, and he's taken this other side and saying, maybe I should take my child, and he's gone for this because he says, I can't get this treatment here, I need to save my child's life. And I think for your own child, I would, as a dad, would take my child, and I would do what has to be the best for him if I was given this choice.
We're going to be talking to a parent a little later on this morning who faced exactly that decision a couple of years ago. She had a desperately ill son, and against sort of medical advice took him abroad to get exactly this therapy. So we'll be talking to her about what happened, and also to an oncologist a little later in about an hour's time about the different treatments. Let's move on, though, to another story now. Vicky, you've got a story inside the Times, and this is about the desperately small living spaces some people are having to rent just because they can't afford any more. I'm just finding it. Go on, take us through it.
It's incredible. We're known now as Generation Rent because so many of us are renting and not buying. Apparently, actually 36 is now the average age of the first-time buyer, which is much older than it used to be. But this is a particular piece on spaces that never would have been seen before as really habitable, that are coming on the market, and actually they're not that cheap. So rather than just dividing rooms now down the middle, rooms are also being divided in half.
It's crazy. How can anybody? She looks quite happy. She's got a smile on her face.
I think she's happy that she's saving money.
But she doesn't have to join a gym, you see, that's why.
Just spending now.
She will when she gets the bad
amazing abs, wouldn't she? There's a lot of people advertising saying, please note that you cannot stand upright in this room. It would suit somebody less than 5 foot tall inches with no history of claustrophobia.
Unbelievable.
So, but they're calling it hutching up, apparently.
Is that
this is
legal?
The new kind of code word. I don't know. And it's like kind of living like rabbits in these big houses with 10 or plus people.
There was a story a few days ago about a landlord, I think, who was fined for
Brent
renting
Council.
the space under
Yeah, he got
his
fined for
stairs.
it in Brent Council.
Renting the space under your stairs.
It's crazy.
Incredible.
Well, there's a graduate apparently who's living in an understairs cupboard, but it's partly to do with, I think, just trying to put aside the money to get a down payment to be able to get on the housing ladder. So people are going to these crazy extremes because they have to. I think it's very sad.
Gosh, it's frightening, isn't it? That's what's ahead for people with children, kind of guess your kids' ages, Pat, having to, leaving home and what they're going to be able to afford to live in. Let's have a look at the next story, and this is inside the Daily Mail about driverless cars. Tell us about this one, Vicky. I'm just trying to find it.
This is a technological dream. I'm a complete geek. I was telling Pat how much I love kind of gadgets and technology. This is obviously coming out of California, where else? But Google are test driving their completely driverless cars. So when they do come out, they'll have no gears, no brakes, and no steering wheel. So I think for most of us to imagine sitting in something like that is a bit scary. At the moment, the test versions of them have to have a wheel because legally in California you have to be able to take control of the car. But they've got a really good track record of the ones they have had driving around. They've only had one incident where it was actually on manual, so no proven accidents have occurred.
That was at fault.
But I mean, they're saying actually that the sensors that it sends out are so sensitive that there's no way that it could actually underperform human driving. So,
it's funny because obviously for us it's kind of something that we can't comprehend, isn't it? Not having control. My 6-year-old was saying yesterday, Mummy, I'm going to be really scared to drive. But I imagine in 11 years' time when he starts to learn that these things will be normal. And
you just hop in, won't you? You might even need a licence.
It'd be amazing.
It looks a bit like the pod you get at Heathrow that takes you from the car park to Terminal 5. And you just sit there going, you'll be there soon. I'm going, OK. It's like Johnny Cars in that Arnold Schwarzenegger film.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a total recall.
Maybe driving in the future will just be like watching a movie. You'll get in and just choose which TV channel you want and just sit there.
But everyone would have to have them, wouldn't they? Otherwise you'd have accidents with people driving manually and
that is true.
driverless cars.
We're going to take a short break. Coming up next, find out about a woman who is making life-size wigwams out of all things twiglets. Welcome back. We've got more papers for you with Vicky Beeching and Pat Sharp. And Vicky, you are starting with the front of the Telegraph, and this is a bit of a fun story. A wigwam, or more than one wigwam, made out of all things twiglets.
So random.
Why?
I love it when people do randomly epic things. And imagine how many twiglets it would take to make full-size, giant wigwams. Apparently it is 1.5 tons of twiglets, and that is 1.7 million individual ones. And it's a food artist who is making 3 of these to celebrate the 85th birthday of the twiglet. Apparently they were created in London in 1929, and these twigwams will be displayed at Jamie Oliver's festival this weekend. If you want to go and, lick them, I suppose.
Yeah, I was going to say, what they're going to do. No one's going to want to eat them afterwards, are they?
No.
Right, look at another story, and this is Kate and Will's having a date night of all things.
This is nice. I love this. I think she always looks fantastic. They've gone to their local pub in Norfolk, and the best bit is the last line there in the little picture at the bottom where it says, the couple shared an ice cream dessert and then walked home holding hands, and love is in the air. When I say air, it's something to do with the heir to the throne, as they spelt it. It's more to do with where's his hair gone. He's losing more and more hair, and he's also morphed into Paul McKenna, if you look at the picture. And so Paul, who's a friend of mine, will be most happy that he's having a date with Kate, I think. So it's just a nice story, isn't it? And but he is looking a bit like McKenna there, so maybe he hypnotised her into a great night out.
When I got married, that was one piece of advice I was given. Go on date nights once a week.
There you go. And do you keep that up, Samantha?
No, doesn't happen. Of course not. 3 children. Who's got time for a date now?
Yeah.
It's a shame they're under so much scrutiny, though, because I think anywhere they go, it's like what they ate and what they wore, and they were holding hands. They had ice cream.
It's very hard for them to go out in public.
Do you think the shared dessert though was like the sort of spaghetti in Lady and the Tramp, where they did like this with interlocking hands, go ooh. A spoon, Is
that what happens on your date?
It sounds very interesting. You should write about it.
OK, thank you very much for taking us through the papers. Lots of fun. We'll see you a little later. Right, let's go to Tom now for a look at the morning's back pages.